Hello and welcome again, everybody. This is Atif Chowdhury from Diversity and Ability. I just want to take this moment just to welcome you all to this Zoom tutorial, and also just to take stock of what's going on and for us all as workers and colleagues trying to support each other. The following video is really about how we use Zoom, how we can use it for our colleagues to support each other, particularly those who may be lost or impacted by disabilities and need that stronger sense of inclusion about how remote training can work and how it needs to work very well. And also for our students and for all the learners that we're trying to reach out to, and to make sure people feel as connected and as included as much as possible. So this is me really saying welcome to it, and to hand you over to Michael, who will then take you on the journey of getting Zoom working well and making sure it's as meaningful as possible. All right, all the best everyone. Good luck.
Okay, so just to place this video in context, my name is Michael. I'm an assistive technology trainer working for Diversity and Ability. My job is to support people in higher education or postgraduate education, or people in the workplace who might have sought support in relation to a disability or a specific learning difference, such as dyslexia or dyspraxia. And I'm specifically training people to use software and hardware designed to help them strategize around the impact of any barriers presented by the environments I've mentioned. Now, there have certainly been some students who I've worked with online where online has been their preference, and that has worked really well for them. But generally what I'm doing is going to people's homes, workplaces, or halls of residence to support them on a one-to-one basis. I think there's something about that experience of being physically present to support somebody with software and hardware, especially if they're going through a challenging time on their university course, that is really, really important and valuable. However, the world has changed dramatically over the last few weeks, and we find ourselves in a position where we've had to move all of our training online. So while this video is going to focus largely on what platforms like Zoom can offer from a technical standpoint, my goal is to try and demonstrate tools and strategies that will support anybody unaccustomed to this way of working and communicating to feel a bit more supported and connected when using them. And so this video focuses on Zoom, which is the platform that we've been using because you can do a lot with it, certainly on a one-to-one basis if you're using a free account. To be clear, Zoom is a tool that's pretty much like Skype or FaceTime, but it offers a lot more functionality to support people who you're teaching, supporting, or working with. And while I'm pitching this video, I guess towards needs assessors for access to work and the DSA, diversity and inclusion stuff, I appreciate there might be a wider audience for this, and I hope that some of the tools that I demonstrate are going to be helpful for you. Okay, so I've gone to zoom.us and I have set up a new Zoom account here. I've just logged in using a Google account, but you can set up an account in a variety of different ways. And the first thing that you'll want to do is actually schedule a meeting that you can invite your attendees to. So if I click on schedule a new meeting here, I can go ahead and fill out the details of my meeting. Now there's lots of settings in this section. I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail here. It's certainly worth having a look and setting it up to your preference, but I should mention that there is a limitation to the basic plan. So for free accounts, if there are more than 2 participants in a meeting, it is going to put a 40-minute time limit on your meeting. So you might want to consider a paid account, but you can get a huge amount of value for one-to-one meetings out of the basic account. And as mentioned, my experience of using this is really training people on using software one-to-one. So for those kind of scenarios, it is perfect. So now I'm going to set up a meeting that starts at 9:30. As I say, if I was just meeting with one other person, there wouldn't be a limit on the amount of time I could spend in this meeting. And I'm just going to leave it with the title of my meeting. And now I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm not going to require a password in this situation, and I'm going to click on Save. Okay, so now I have an entry in my meetings section. If I click on Meetings, I've got that meeting, and any other meetings that you had scheduled you would see in there as well. And if I go into my meeting, you will be able to see this link, which you can just send to any participants. You've got an option to copy the invitation there as well, and all that your participant will need to do is click on that link and it should get them into Zoom. It's a little bit fiddlier than that, but I'm going to talk about managing that process in just a second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting now. And this is what a participant would see the first time that they try and open a Zoom meeting. Now, this is similar to what your client would see when they open Zoom for the first time. It's going to be asking them to download a file in the initial instance, so they're looking out for a box like this to click on. And if that isn't working, they can always click on the download and run Zoom button at the bottom. This bit can be a little bit fiddly for some people who are a bit concerned about this kind of communication in the first instance. So I would always strongly suggest being on hand to chat to them on the phone while you get this set up for them. And then, because I've already got Zoom downloaded, because I've used it before on this computer, I can just click on Open Zoom Meetings, and that is going to launch the Zoom client. Okay, so I'm going to join with computer audio. And now we can see I am in my meeting. Now here's a few pointers for what I normally do when I come into the meeting in the first place. We can actually see that my microphone is working okay. Just a quick point, you can actually mute your microphone quite easily just by clicking on it down at the bottom of the screen. Now, if I was in a situation where there was a lot of background noise where I was situated, you can actually leave your microphone muted, and then what you can do is you can use the space bar as a shortcut for temporarily unmuting your microphone. So if I hold down space now, you should see that the mute turns off there, and as soon as I let go, then it's actually gone back to muted again. Or I can manually have it set to be working consistently. Additionally, if you click on the little arrow here, you can see which speakers your copy of Zoom is working with, and you can see which microphone, if you have several microphones, it's accepting audio from. This can be a useful thing to point out to our participant who's joined. If for whatever reason you can't get the audio working, you can get them on the phone, and I think that is the easiest thing to do rather than perhaps trying to rely on the chat window that you've got down at the bottom of the screen there. So I'd get them on the phone and talk them through this. That's often a little bit simpler. Now there is an option to switch to phone audio, and that means dialing into the Zoom meeting with your phone, but I would avoid that because I think Zoom might be turning that off for non-paid account due to the high volume of people trying to use that at the moment. So if there are any problems with troubleshooting audio, I would tend to go in and use a normal phone call to try and troubleshoot that. You can also go into audio settings, and you can test the speaker to make sure it's working. And you can even test your microphone so that you can hear the quality. This is a test of my microphone.
This is a test of my microphone.
And there we go. Right, okay. So eventually you should find that your participant joins the meeting, unless they've lost the email you sent them. But then if they're having difficulty finding the email, you can actually go into this handy little feature at the bottom, the invite button, and that's just going to give you a number of ways of quickly emailing the invite through to the participant again. So you can either use one of these options here, or you can just copy the URL. So that will just be saved to the clipboard. You can paste that into an email and you can quickly just send it to them. And eventually someone should arrive in your meeting. Now ideally you want to set up Zoom to make a noise when somebody comes into your meeting room. I haven't set up Zoom that way in this video, foolishly, but I'll show you how you can set it up like that in a few minutes. What I like to do is actually click on the Manage Participants button in the first instance and just keep an eye on people arriving on the right hand side there. So I've muted my microphone because I'm currently meeting with myself on a nearby computer and I'd get some horrible feedback happening otherwise. So we are connected. There's two of me in this particular Zoom meeting, and one of the first things that I would do when meeting with somebody using this technology for the first time is just assure them that if what they're normally used to with the kind of support I give is someone physically being there supporting them to learn a piece of software or technology or collaborating with them on something, then I can pretty much give them the same experience that they would get if I was sitting with them. And to demonstrate this, what I first of all ask them to do is go to the very bottom of their Zoom window and click on this share screen button. Now what you should find is that there are two little tick boxes at the bottom of the share window. So you ask the participant to go ahead and tick both of those, and that just means that if you need to make a video to support them with whatever you're meeting with them for, then it means that the audio produced by their computer will be on that video as well. And I tend to click on this optimize screen sharing for video clip button as well, just in the hopes that it gives you a bit of a higher quality video. There are other features on here as well, which I'm not going to talk about, but you may want to explore those. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and get my participant to share their screen. So let's try that now. Share my screen. And what you should find is something like this. Now, it might be that I'm overloading my internet a little bit because it's saying that my internet connection is a little bit unstable. That might happen. You know, it's something to bear in mind. Just stick with it as much as you can, because if the internet connection is a bit unstable, what you might find is that the quality of the screen degrades a bit. And it's actually improved even after a few seconds of connecting to my participant's computer. So then you can start giving them instructions. So, you know, you could ask the client to go ahead and shrink their window down, move any files out of the way, and now I can clearly see the computer screen of the participant. And it's full screen at the moment as I'm viewing the participant's computer screen. If I move my mouse around, then all my zoom controls come back at the bottom of the screen. It's worth pointing out to the participant that you're working with that all of their zoom controls are actually at the top of the screen. So I've just moved to the mouse on the other computer now, and actually we can see this little green bar at the top. And if you click on that, then all those zoom controls appear at the top of the screen so that they can access those and mute and unmute their microphone if they want. I didn't mention this earlier, but I've not got webcams working at the moment, but that's where you can turn your webcam on and off as well, and the webcam would appear on the right-hand side of the screen there. Now, it's normally at this point that I demonstrate that I can actually support any participants by drawing on their screen. So I go up to the top of the screen and go to Annotate, and I've got all kinds of features that I can use here. I can actually draw on their screen. So for instance, I could draw a circle around a particular icon that I wanted them to click on, and that should appear on the participant's screen as well. You also have the option to go ahead and clear all of the drawings at the same time, including drawings that the participant has added, or you can leave certain ones up and just get rid of specific ones. So you can go in and obviously draw your eraser over that particular bit of drawing there and it will get rid of it. You can also drop arrows if you want the participant to click in certain areas of their screen. And one thing that I quite like is that you can actually type on the screen as well. So if you actually want to leave them some typed instructions, in a couple of seconds that text should actually appear on their screen as well. And in exactly the same way, you can go up to clear and then clear all drawings or clear just your drawings. And that gets rid of them. One thing you have to notice is that if you want to go and click on other buttons in Zoom, that isn't going to work until you get rid of this bar here. So I'm going to click on the X now, and now I should find that my Zoom controls go back. So I think that's a really useful tool to demonstrate at the beginning, just to reduce the stress levels of someone that you might be meeting with who maybe isn't used to this way of working. If, for instance, you need to go ahead and actually make some changes on their computer because perhaps your participant is struggling to follow some instructions that you've given them, you can actually take remote control of your participant's screen as well. So some participants might be a bit uncomfortable about that in the first instance, but once they see that it's a tool that's there to support them, then they often find that it's really helpful. So for instance, I can go up to View Options and I can go to Request Remote Control. Now what would happen is that once I clicked on Request here, a window would pop up on the participant's screen. They could go and click on Approve, and now as soon as I click the mouse or the keyboard, I can control aspects of the participant's computer. So I could go in and activate things on their screen. I'm now using the mouse on my computer, but I could go, for instance, and just double click on the recycle bin and launch that and close that down just so that you can see that working. It can be a little bit laggy, but it normally works really well. The one thing to consider is that if you actually are installing software on a participant's computer to support them, they may occasionally see something like what I'm going to put on the screen now, this user account control window. Typically Zoom won't show this to you, The participant can see it, but you can't see it. You'll hear a chime in your ear when you're trying to install something, and this window is actually saying to the participant, is it okay to install this software? They would need to actually activate this at their end, but it's normally pretty easy to pick up on it because you'll hear a chime in your earpiece and you can just ask the participant to go ahead and click on the yes button, and then the installation process should continue and you'll have control again. And another really helpful feature to support the people that you're working with is that if you are supporting them through something quite complex on their computer, you can actually make little bite-sized videos for them. Now, paid accounts allow you to record to the cloud, but you still have the option to make unlimited recordings. It's just that those will render straight to your computer. Now, before I look at that, I'm actually going to go back into the participants window. And I'm going to give up remote control now because I just wanted to demonstrate that you have control over the way that your attendees interact with your meeting. So first of all, it's just to flag up the fact that if you have a lot of different people in the meeting, you can do stuff like mute or unmute everybody. You've got the option in the More button to set some options for how Zoom will start up, so you can mute participants on entry, and I did promise I would show you how you could set Zoom so that it makes a noise when participants enter the meeting in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead and set that now, and if I click on it again, I can see that is now ticked and I should get a notification when new participants join. You can also go to individual participants, unmute their microphones, or do stuff like allow them to record from their end. So depending on how you've got the meeting set up, it may not by default allow participants to make videos at their end, but that can often be quite a good thing to allow them to do. What I like to do though is manage recordings, especially if I'm teaching a piece of software, because I don't often want to record the entire session. I want to do a little 5-minute recap where I control their computer. If this is relevant to how you're working with people remotely, then I think this is really important, because it's all very well for me to share my screen and show somebody something on my computer, but it's much more supportive if you're taking control of their computer and the video they have got is, you know, a space that they're comfortable with. So it's really easy. You just go down to record at the bottom of the screen, and now I am making a recording. You can actually pause it as well. So for instance, if I was demonstrating a piece of software that had a bit of setup and there was a big progress installation bar that was going to take about 2 minutes to complete, I'd pause it while it finished, and then when I was ready to continue, I'd press the play button again, and then I would stop it in between each unit of teaching. And what you're going to end up with is every time you press pause, it's just going to interrupt the recording and then restart it again, but you get a single video. However, when you press the stop button, that completely finishes the recording, and if I was to press record again, it's going to start a brand new video. Now, these videos go to a nominated folder on your computer. It should automatically open that up when you finish the Zoom recording, but just to show you, you can go into the settings. I think the way I tend to do it is I just would click on any of these setting options here, because that's going to take me into the general settings window, and then I can go to recording, and here it's showing me that it's recording it onto my C drive, and I could go and change the location if I wanted to and actually fish that video out after I'd finished my meeting. And just to show you, once you've used Zoom for the first time, it does actually install a program onto your computer. So I've got this Zoom shortcut on my desktop now, and if I launch that, then I've got many of the same features I'd find on the web version. So you don't have to go into the web version of Zoom. You can schedule some meetings from here, and you can go in and play around with the settings nice and easily. So that little cog just opens up the window that we've already seen, just in case you wanted to play around with your audio settings before setting up a meeting, or actually the settings for how you're going to record and where those recordings are going to go to. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed that video. I do appreciate though this video doesn't really cover the whole story, because although we've talked about getting connected with Zoom, there are lots of things to think about when you're trying to teach or communicate online or support somebody online, because it's quite different when you haven't got those physical cues that you normally get from somebody, and sometimes a webcam doesn't quite cut it. And as mentioned, while some students and colleagues might really enjoy this way of working, some people may find that their own personal experience of their neurodiversity actually makes this quite a challenging way of working. So we'd like to invite you to get in touch if you're interested in exploring these kinds of concepts. We do create bespoke workshops dealing with these kinds of issues. You can book a consultation on the web address below or contact us by email or telephone.